Hey folks, I'm at Sunjammers Water Sports, and what's the town that we're in?
Panama City.
Panama City, Florida. I'm here with Brad Stevens, and we're gonna take a look real quick. You just finished setting up your first demo Torpedo Ultralight 403 AC, and let's take a look. He's put it here on the new 2019 Outback, and there it is. Eventually, he's going to do the steering setup that goes to the pivot drum, and we've got to order some Yak Attack.
Got to order Yak Attack throttle mounts and some little odds and ends, but we're chomping at the bits to go fishing.
Cool. I know they've already sold one, and they've only been a dealer for what, 3 days? So cool. They're selling good. I'll be on the water coming up soon with Matthew Vann, who works with the shop here, and I think he's going to put us on some You're probably going to catch some red snapper, some grouper, some triggerfish, maybe some king mackerel. Yeah. If he does his job, your arms will be tired. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to doing that and getting out on the water with Matthew and really showing what the 915 watt-hour battery can do in terms of the offshore kayak fishing. You know, opportunities here in the Panhandle of Florida. Oh, absolutely. Awesome.
The next couple days we're going to be going offshore, doing some kayak fishing with our torpedoes, and we're going to be targeting kingfish, mahi-mahi, sailfish, Spanish mackerel. And a big part of being able to land those fish is going to be having the proper rigging and the proper tackle. And right now I'm going to twist up some rigs that I call mahi candy. They're kind of like one of your typical king rigs, but not so typical because I take the time to put very high-end components, and I'm pretty obsessive about the way that I make them. So what we're going to start out with here is going to be 40-pound 7-strand wire. We're going to have 4X VMC short shank treble hooks and 2/0 Ulner Gorilla Light live bait hooks. What we're going to do is we're going to take one of these treble hooks and we're going to feed the wire through it, and we're going to do a 7-wrap snell knot onto the shank of that hook. Then we're going to come up, we're going to feed that wire through there, making sure to not kink it. We're going to cinch it down nice and tight and bend it straight with the wire. We're going to lay that down. We're going to get our next treble hook. I make 3 hook rigs, and we're going to bring our next treble hook on here. And this is a part that I try to do. I try to keep my trebles in line because I like the 2 hooks that are sticking into the sides of the bait to stick in the same spot. So I'll line those 2 hooks up. The size of these rigs depends on the size of bait that you're going to be using mainly. I'll have, you know, multiple length rigs with, you know, different lengths for larger and smaller baits. But I'll do those wraps really tight on there, hold them really tight. Again, come and feed it through the same side that I did the first one. Cinch it down real good without kinking my wire. So there's your first 2. These are called your stinger hooks. Those are going to go into the middle section of the bait and the tail of the bait, because these fish, oftentimes they're all slash feeders. This will go in to the back side of that hook. You'll come down. I like to have a slightly larger gap between my nose hook and my first stinger hook to take into consideration of the head of the bait, because this J hook will go up through the nose of the bait, through the top of its head, or through its nostrils, and you want to have enough space to get this back into the middle section of the bait and back towards the tail. So I'll take that and I'll hold it tight against the shank, and again do 7 twists. A lot of people do fewer wraps on that. I just am in one of those in overkill we trust kind of guys. You always want to come in through the back side of that hook, similar to like if you were snailing a hook. Well, we are snailing a hook kind of, and then that way this wire comes out the front of the hook, and what that does is when a fish grabs on it, this acts as a lever forcing that J hook into the mouth of the fish. So there's your 3 hooks. They're all kind of in line. When this is chin hooked, these will hook perfectly into the side of the bait. One of my favorite dusters is this pearl duster here. I like the long strands, especially if I'm trolling a frozen bait, but they also work really well on live baits. This is gonna make your bait look like 2 or 3 baits in the water. It's slightly weighted, but it's designed to let your bait ride on the top of the surface. You just come up through there, bring that down on, and that's what your rig is gonna look like. That'll get it done. Then I'll come in here with a, you can use 50, 75, or 80-pound swivels. I like these Spro Power swivels. They tend to hold up to the salt water better than most, and they have just a great free-flowing action. You don't really want your bait to spin. You want it to be swimming naturally, but if it does spin, you want it to spin without spinning your line up. So what I do up here to connect this wire is going to be what we call a figure 8 knot. So you'll go the tag in through the eye of the hook, and then you'll come up like that to make a figure 8. You'll cinch this down slowly to not kink the line, and then you'll pull it really fast here at the end, but you always want to leave a little bit of slack there in that knot so that when the fish hit, there's a little bit of a shock absorber. I'll bend that tag end around and come back down, and I'll start about a 7 to 10 twist series of barrel twists. I like my first couple twists to go at an angle, as if you were doing a haywire twist with single strand, and then I'll tighten those twists up to go and wrap them directly around the wire, the standing line. Most people would only do about 3 or 4 wraps on this, and that's plenty good. I just feel like, the more wraps the better. You never know what you're going to hook into out there, and I just like to know that what I've got is good. Twist that on. You always want your last wrap to be about 90 degrees coming off your standing line. Get you some cutters. Come in there real tight to it. Cut it off. Little tag end is okay right there. You just have to be careful when you're handling that. And that is my version of King Stinger rig. I call that the mahi candy because we've caught tons of mahi off it over the years. I've caught sailfish, cobia, king mackerel, Spanish mackerel, tiger shark, bull sharks. Pretty much everything that swims out there will hit this rig. And I normally tie up about 10 or 12 of these for every trip, because if you ever get on a good bite out there, you don't want to be using anything that's kinked or twisted up. And I like to just, when they get messed up, I'll wrap them back up nice and neat, throw them in the Ziploc. So like this is what I'll do afterwards. I'll just wrap this around twice, and I'll run this standing line through here 3 times. Oh, that tag end's getting caught. And then that'll set just like that. I had a Ziploc in here. Here's my Ziploc bag. Then just take my Ziploc and just put it in here. And this is actually how I take them offshore. I have a Plano, waterproof Plano, and I have all of these individually wrapped just like this. So as soon as I get one that's messed up, I just pull another one out, take it out, set it in my lap, rig it up, twist the old one up just like this, throw it in here. As long as you take these good high-end hooks home that day, take them out of the bag, wash them off, cut them off the wire, you can reuse these hooks time and time again until you dull your points or break a shank. And that is my king rig.